3393. We got the big Thanksgiving holiday, and a lot of you probably are used to people giving you Thanksgiving tips and some other things. We're going to do things a little differently here when it comes to Thanksgiving meals. We talk about the holiday meal. Celebrity chef Patrick Mosier is joining us now. He has prepared some dishes, some good dishes and some food fails. And Patrick and I talked about this. How you doing, sir?
Good to see you, Doc.
Talked about this early on, that if you go on Instagram, you'll see the pictures where people make mistakes as they try to do something.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here was my attempt at making that cake, and wow, that doesn't look like a soldier at all.
No, there's a lot of nailed it photos on there that are,
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah, that's
failed
what they call it. Nailed it, right? Nailed it. But I thought, what about all of the failures of concept in design, or as you're going, maybe I'll do this, and that's the fail. And you have to see that a lot in restaurants.
Yeah,
especially with younger chefs.
Yeah, I mean, you see it from restaurant design all the way through the plate at the end of the day with the chef. But yeah, we see it all the time.
So
a little more ambitious sometimes than maybe they're ready for.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about the holiday first of all, and preparation, food preparation in general. I don't know if I should let the cat out of the bag, but in the grand scheme of things, making Thanksgiving dinner is not as difficult as other dinners or things you could make. I mean, Thanksgiving's not that difficult, is it?
No, it's time consuming, I think, is the biggest thing.
But it's all prep work though, right? So
it
you
is.
can do a lot ahead and then
throw it in the oven,
walk away,
pull it out and eat.
Yeah, so I mean, that stuff's pretty easy. But I mean, people are stressing about this stuff. At least you can do a lot of it early.
Absolutely.
You're not timing everything to come out exactly the same like some meals.
Pies can be made the day before. Your dressing can be made before, reheated the next day. Turkey, you throw it in 3 to 5 hours before it's ready to go, depending on the weight, and you're ready. It's that easy. Make the gravy last minute.
Now, there's some things that people do that are unconventional. People don't like turkey, whatever. They say we do something different or whatever. And you have one suggestion that was a non-conventional thing that the staff has been drooling over for the last hour or so. What did you make that's kind of a non-conventional food item?
Well, it's kind of a play on the first Thanksgiving, which we know they had venison, and we know they had seafood, and one of the seafood was probably lobster. So I couldn't get venison, and a lot of people don't like venison. I went ahead and stuffed a tenderloin.
Beef tenderloin.
Beef tenderloin, sorry. A beef tenderloin with sauteed mushrooms in butter, and then whole lobster tails down the middle, trussed it up, and roasted it in the oven.
So you've got a lobster stuffed tenderloin?
Correct.
And all this time I thought to myself, there's no way to dress up tenderloin. It's tenderloin, right? I mean, how do you make tenderloin better? Lobster stuffed, butter, mushroom stuffed tenderloin.
Why did I not think truffles?
Yeah, exactly. Truffles. How do you make it even bigger? That's got to be pretty easy for a meal, though. That's a lot of prep work, and then in the oven and out.
It is. I mean, but again, it took me 20 minutes to prep it this morning, and then 40 minutes in the oven. That was it.
Okay, so you're just cutting it and stuffing it, right? I mean, after you saute the mushrooms, just put them in there?
That's actually the hardest part, because you have to mince them really small so you don't get too much liquid in them.
Okay.
But it takes forever. It takes like an hour to do that.
Oh, okay, so that's the worst part of it. So I guess you could just do the lobster.
Yeah, you don't need the mushrooms.
That's just a little extra.
A little extra for us.
Do you have to worry about the lobster overcooking in there, or is it because it's the middle, it probably takes a little longer?
You actually pre-cook the lobster tails about 80% of the way.
Wow.
Take them out of the shell and put them in there, and then you don't have to worry about it. Because if they don't cook, you get the whole contamination factor, shellfish, meat, different temperatures.
But you really don't have to worry about them overcooking at all?
No, they're insulated pretty well in the middle.
Okay, slice that up. I got to see it. Slice it up so the staff can at least see a piece of it or whatever. And if you want, you can check it out, the Blaze TV, and we'll post a video a little bit later on. I'll do links to it. It's at Doc Thompson Show.
I have to apologize to all my mentors using a sushi knife to slice this up.
Yeah, we have limited restaurant supplies here. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. That's going to look real nice plated, too, if you have a dinner party or something.
Absolutely. So we'll do a little on the plate there. Get a little bit of this one. So we have a horseradish cream here.
And that's just?
It's just sour cream, prepared horseradish with the juice, the vinegar squeezed out, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of white pepper, white sauce, white pepper. And this is a cranberry and orange compote. This is just cranberries, fresh cranberries, orange juice, a little bit of white wine, and a little bit of
that gives you that little
salt.
Bit of Thanksgiving, theme still a little bit. Wow, that looks nice. How come it never looks that nice when I cook? Sometimes it tastes good, but rarely does it look nice.
Hey, I've had some fails too. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Wow. Okay, who's going to be the first to try this now that he's plated it? Chris, you up? our buddy Chris on staff here, he's going to try it. You're going to have to come over, and then the rest of the staff can. You can dig in and cut it there.
Be nice, sir.
All right, now, one of the fails that Chris came up with, and you actually saw this somewhere, was the sushi roll. Get the sushi roll out. Let's take a look at the sushi roll here.
All right. So.
Oh, wait, hang on a second. How is that, Chris?
Oh, wow.
You took the whole tail. Oh, well, good thing we have plenty left.
Okay, a Thanksgiving sushi roll?
So
That's a fail of concept.
Let me just put this out there. I'm a trained sushi chef. I lived and worked in Japan for a long time, came back. That was my first job in the culinary industry, was sushi chef.
So that would be more of your specialty. That's your expertise.
And I'm kind of a purist when it comes to it. I have a hard time putting cream cheese in rolls.
Okay.
I do it because that's what people eat. You know, a lot of mayonnaise, it just doesn't do it for me.
So what is traditional? It's just the fish and seaweed
Yeah,
and a couple of basic things?
Kewpie mayonnaise, this cute little Japanese Kewpie bottle of mayonnaise.
Okay.
But yeah, typically it's fish, rice, vegetables, and that's pretty, cucumber and avocado.
Okay,
is
and
pretty popular.
those are all standard or more
Absolutely.
standard, but all the other stuff is
Yeah.
not. Okay.
So I've been seeing this for about 10 years now. Everybody does this leftover roll or whatever they want to call it, which is fine, you know. And I thought, you know, I could never bring myself to do it. And when we talked about doing this show, I had to. I just couldn't resist. So what I did is we have turkey, stuffing, dried cranberries, all right, the nori, which is the dried laver seaweed, and to go on it, I made a cranberry teriyaki sauce, actually.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
teriyaki is just basically water or chicken stock with sugar and soy sauce and a little bit of salt, and you reduce that down. But when I did it, I actually took fresh cranberries, put them in there, and reduced it down with it. So we'll see. I mean, I have gravy if you'd prefer, but I think this would probably be a little
Okay, now, once I see it, it actually looks like it may be pretty good, but the concept seems like a fail if you say to your family, come on over, we're having sushi. Well, I'm not a big fish. No.
No, yeah.
It's Thanksgiving sushi. It's turkey sushi. It's cooked. It's just, all right, Chris, you're on deck. You got to try. The rest of the crew's busy right now, so you got to try the sushi.
And
roll.
this is actually like a Japanese sandwich. It's finger food, so just pick it up.
All right, let's see. I feel like I'm eating sushi.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, you know, sushi rolls are pretty malleable. You put something inside, the rice has not a lot of flavor. It's just sugar, vinegar, and the rice. And the nori kind of gets lost in everything, the rice, the laver paper. But,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Okay, and then dessert. You
Dessert.
make dessert.
yeah.
Right? It's a cake.
Yeah.
It's dessert.
This would be what they call the turkey leftover or Thanksgiving leftover cake.
Okay, so it looks like a cake, folks. It's a white frosted cake, and then you realize that white frosting is.
Well, the first time I saw it, I was
Mashed
thinking,
potatoes.
it looked like carrot cake. And I thought, it's just wrong. It looks like it's going to be dessert, but it eats like a savory pie. You know, it's what are
Okay,
they?
so it doesn't look bad. If you look at the insides here and you see tell me the layers. So what's
Okay,
it?
so we have stuffing.
Right.
Or sorry, dressing nowadays, because you don't
Dressing.
stuff the bird. Hey, by the way, that was the original fail. Putting something that absorbs liquid inside of a bird that gets dry already when you bake it was not a good idea. The whole stuffing inside the bird.
Why did they stuff them?
I don't know. Flavor.
Maybe that's what it's for
Probably.
the stuffer. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. But yeah, it's absorbing moisture. Just cook it
Exactly.
on the side. That's a
So
good point.
we've got dressing.
And your bird cooks faster.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
You know, we talked about those little shake and bake bags you put them in. They're the best.
Interesting.
We have dressing, turkey, cranberry, more dressing, mashed potatoes, dressing, turkey, and then potatoes on top.
And that's kind of the frosting.
That's kind of the frosting.
So this is all stuff you'd be eating anyways. A lot of people eat this stuff together. The gravy on the side.
Here.
But what's the point of this one then, Patrick?
Extra work. This took me like 30 minutes to make.
So couldn't I just throw all that stuff in bowls and put it out there and you could have it? Or?
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you just stuff it between two pieces of bread and make a sandwich? Or
Okay, that's one of the best things for leftovers is the grilled Thanksgiving
Oh,
leftover
yeah.
sandwich.
paninis.
Yeah, you get the good bread or panini press or whatever, then you put
Oh,
it in there
yeah.
and then together. But you got to have that sweet, so you got to put the either
cranberry has to go in there.
or and the sweet potatoes. I like both in there.
I
but
thought you were
then
going to say Nutella for a minute. That doesn't
No,
really work,
no.
does it?
Do you have that? It might be a fail. It might just
No, that's one of my favorites.
All right, Chris. I guess you're the guinea pig here right now because I got to keep hosting at this point. All right, grab a fork and whatnot, and we'll see how that goes. How long did it take you, aside from the stuff? 30 minutes to just assemble?
About 30 minutes. I mean, give or take. I had to whip the mashed potatoes together real quick.
Okay.
So this was actually what we had left over after the show prep today.
Oh,
other than
okay.
the
So
mashed
you got all
potatoes.
that stuff then, whatever. All right. So.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh.
wait, it should taste like the same stuff. What are you talking about?
Too,
Okay.
too many flavors going on?
Okay. What's those look like meatballs?
These are turkey meatballs, and these are simmered. Well, after you brown them,
Right.
they're simmered in a sauce that's a cranberry barbecue sauce.
So this is ground turkey?
It's ground
100%
turkey.
ground turkey.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
it's thigh meat ground up.
Okay.
And it's got some onion, garlic, a little bit of seasoning in there.
And then what's the sauce
it's
on there? Cranberry?
It's a cranberry barbecue sauce.
Okay, let's try, Chris.
Now, I don't own these recipes, and you know I'm very particular about what I serve and how it tastes. So I did actually doctor these a little bit because some of them weren't very good.
Okay, so you're trying to make the best out of them. I'll bet
Yes.
that's actually fairly good. Pretty simple?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Not too sweet.
Again, this is about conceptual fails, not necessarily.
Yeah, and yeah, not the taste afterwards. It's the idea where you're like, okay, why would you put this much work into it?
Or
you know, the idea of a turkey roll just seems odd to people, so that is a fail there.
Yeah, or the what did I see? A Powerade basted turkey. What drunk college kid thought that one up? I mean,
Okay,
really.
yeah, what's
It
the
was for-
benefit of the Powerade? You could just use any juice. Why are you using the chemicals and everything else? And is Powerade, you really love Powerade flavor that much?
I'm
Is
guessing
that-
it was what was left over in the fridge.
Okay. I'm going to get a quick break in. We're going to come back and talk about a quick dessert, which seems like it could be pretty good. It's Doc Thompson in for Glenn Beck in the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck program.
888-727-BECK.
Mercury. The Glenn Beck program.
Hey there, it's Doc Thompson for Glenn Beck today with celebrity chef Patrick Mosier the day before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. We're talking about some food successes and some food failures, some things to give you some ideas for the holiday. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Doc Thompson Show. If you want Patrick, it's at FoodBizPro. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
at
FoodBizPro.
FoodBizPro on the Twitter. You did make sort of a dessert. It's a popsicle.
Yeah, so I've been seeing this for a year or two as well. This is a pumpkin spiced popsicle.
Oh, that sounds good.
So it's
I thought it was gravy for a minute. I was like, okay.
Yeah, gravy pops. Yeah, those haven't they set, but they've been out for a little
Yeah,
while.
but
So
under
be
the lights a
careful.
little bit,
There
so a
we
little
go.
moist. What's the
All right.
so pumpkin spice? What is it cream and what do
No,
you
it's
put in them?
actually so it's coconut milk. Coconut milk with pumpkin puree. I
Right.
mean, just plain pumpkin.
Is there sugar?
And then pumpkin pie spice in there.
Okay, no sugar, no extra sugar.
There's honey.
There's
A
honey.
little bit
Okay.
of honey, yeah.
Too
Too
thick?
thick?
Too thick, yeah.
Yeah.
How's the flavor?
Coconut's overpowering.
Yeah. So for me, it's a fail because it's 40 degrees or cooler in most of the country. Why are you going to eat a popsicle when we can have the pie?
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's my sister Dana. She goes. One day we're eating pumpkin loaf, right? With the cream cheese filling and the frosting, whatever. And pumpkin loaf is tremendous. Pumpkin bread, that.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent stuff. But she had the best point. She goes, whenever you eat anything else pumpkin, aren't you also thinking, I wish this was pumpkin pie. This is great, but boy, I wish it was pumpkin pie. It's the best.
Absolutely.
All right, so everything pretty good. As you can see, the stuff's been hit pretty hard, with the exception of the cake. That was avoided a little bit. Tender hit pretty hard. But I have to point out to the crew that Buck Sexton didn't have food for you guys yesterday. Buck Sexton didn't bring in food the day before. Just so you know, although I'm in on Friday too, so I've set a precedent here, haven't I? So that might be pretty rough.
I'm only 3.5 hours away.
Oh, okay, very good, very good. So it's at Doc Thompson Show and at Food Biz Pro for celebrity chef Patrick Mosier. Let's sit down a minute and talk about some of the other trends and things coming in the industry. We're going to talk about business a lot on Friday, as I said, and a lot of people think, oh, I could start a restaurant. Restaurant
Yes.
business is difficult. If you're thinking that you're going to make $1 million opening a restaurant, you got to think this thing through.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, first and foremost, it's a business. It's not a social game. It's not a place to entertain, although that could be part of it.
But that's got to be the first fail, though. The first fail
Absolutely.
is, well, I know how to cook good. I'll open a restaurant. And then
Absolutely.
second of all, I'll bring all my friends. And
Yeah, and that's what happens. You know, I recently consulted with a restaurant in Houston, and after 4 years, they've sunk over $6 million in this thing, and they had to close their doors, unfortunately. It's a sad thing. I mean,
is the failure most of the time that people that start restaurants don't understand what they're getting into?
that's part of it, and then you hire your friends and family as staff. and they may not have the experience necessary. It's a science. It's just like any other business. There's an art to it. There are cost to control, plating specs, recipe standards, training standards. There's a lot of training.
And you
on
do a lot of
daily basis.
consulting for this stuff too. So
I
you
do.
have an actual formula, a plan in place that
Yep.
is at least going to be the beginning template to be successful.
Yeah, we have a very systematic approach to restaurant management. What we do is try to bring the advantage that big chains have into independently owned restaurants, because most of them don't have chain experience. And chains are very systematic, you know, and McDonald's, at this time you do this, at this time you do that, at this time you do that. It may not apply to your business, but we take those parts that do, create a system for you and an outline that you can follow. So now you manage the system, and the system manages these employees.
Sounds good. We're going to hear more about this and some of the future trends in restaurants and also restaurant business and eating coming up next on the Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program. Mercury. The Glenn Beck Program.
888-727-BECK.
Hey there, it's Doc Thompson in for Glenn Beck today. If you have any questions for our celebrity chef, Patrick Mosier, we'll take some. 888-727-BECK. 888-727-BECK if you have any. I got to tell you, the tenderloin, by the way, one of the staff goes, wait a minute, was this supposed to be one of the fails? I was like, no, this is an additional suggestion for you if you're worried about fails. The tenderloin with the lobster in it and the mushrooms, I'm amazed at how good it is. Because, I mean, it's tenderloin. You go, okay, it's going to be tenderloin.
Yeah.
And I like lobster, so you got some lobster too. But it becomes this whole other thing with the flavors and the mushrooms together.
Yeah, that's that kind of additional flavor. Everybody talks about umami, that kind of earthy tone. It gives a lot of depth to everything. And they were sautéed in 2 sticks of butter with a little salt and pepper in there, so it really helps.
Have you heard of the calamari index? The calamari index is a tool to measure how long a particular item will be trendy on restaurant menus, and it goes back to when calamari was like the trendy item in the late 70s and 80s, and they tracked how long it was popular, and then like right now, like Brussels sprouts are really big right now.
Oh, that's
on
the
menus.
number one vegetable on menus, the number one new one, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, how long will it be around? Well, you go to Calamari Index and you look and you see about how many, like 18 months, trendy, whatever.
Yeah.
And most of these start off at like high-end restaurants, and somebody tries to do something different, and then people follow suit, and it goes lower,
Absolutely.
lower, lower, until finally it ends up on like some of the lowest, like price-wise or whatever, or most common restaurants out there. And by then, everybody's moved on at the upper end.
Yeah, so at the end you can get it at Luby's basically.
Right, exactly right. It's
Hey, I'm not knocking Luby's.
right, exactly. It's just, lower end price
Yeah.
point or whatever. So what else is out there right now that's really trendy? I mean, we've had, think about all the things in the past, like you said, calamari, that was big.
The shrimp cocktail. Remember, it used to
Yeah,
be the shrimp
that's right.
cocktail? And over the last 5 years, ceviche has really come to
And what
be
is
the star.
ceviche?
So ceviche is a seafood that's been marinated in an acid like lemon or lime to cook it. And then it's served in that juice,
So
typically with.
it's raw, but then the
Correct.
acids essentially cook it, is that
Yep.
what they think of?
That's what they do.
I had some within the last couple of months, and I had not been exposed to it before. And I like some fish gets a little fishy for me. I thought it was sensational. It was done really well.
Well, and the acid kind of helps with that. It takes some of the fishiness away. And the marinade that they use for it in each country in South America is a little bit different. So in Ecuador, for instance, they use orange juice and ketchup. They actually pre-cook the fish just a little bit, take some of that broth, put it in with the fish, and then add the orange juice, ketchup, marinade, a little lemon juice, and they let it sit for 6 to 8 hours until it's done and serve it. It's really good with really thinly sliced red onions, and they serve it with popcorn and plantain chips on the side. It's phenomenal.
Popcorn and plantain?
Well, food is about texture and temperatures, right? So you want something that brings a little extra character to the dish. The
Okay.
popcorn's kind of flavorless, but it adds crunch. And
Okay, I guess that does make sense. That's just, yeah, you don't think of that as being served, unless it's Snoopy's Thanksgiving. You don't think of popcorn being served with a meal like that. Now, can the ceviche be, are variations on it? Can you do other meats? I mean, I know there's like beef tartare, for example.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Can you use the acids to cook other things like that? Or
You can.
it probably gets a little weird when it gets to meat.
It does, and ceviche you should only use certain fish.
Okay.
Things that you know are safe to cook in that manner. You get into beef or chicken, you obviously don't want to do poultry
Yeah,
that
you
way.
can't do poultry because
No.
of salmonella and whatever.
Well, I actually had chicken sashimi in Japan one time. That was very interesting.
You mean, so raw, like sashimi?
Yeah,
like
I don't know
whatever.
what I was thinking, but I tried it.
Wow, what were they thinking? I mean, I guess there's...
I guess they thought the dipping sauce would just take care of everything.
Okay,
Drink enough
doesn't
sake, it's
sound
all good the
though.
next day.
The raw chicken doesn't sound good though.
No.
Was it good?
I don't remember. I
You
think
were-
I blocked it out.
You blacked out or you're pretty drunk, right? Because I'd
Both.
probably try it if I was drunk.
I had drank a little bit of sake that day.
Okay, so at one time, like you said, you got
Shrimp
cocktail. You'd go to dinner parties, fancy whatever, cocktail receptions, or at parties or anything like this, and they would put out the big bowl of shrimp cocktail with
Oh,
the
yeah.
cocktail sauce in the middle, whatever. And that just went away. We didn't do that. And then we had like lower end appetizers like potato skins and mozzarella sticks and all the variations on those. And man, those hung around a long time. And then those finally went
Jalapeno
away.
poppers.
Jalapeno poppers, which, and you know what's frustrating about those too, is that by the time they start becoming commonplace, they're not done as very well.
Well, they're not. I mean, the reason that they became popular in the first place was somebody set a standard that no one else was able to achieve. Right?
Oh, people
It
said,
was-
I love this, I want to
Yeah.
do this too, but you
Exactly.
can't do it the same standard.
Yeah, or you can't do it because the price point is different. So you have to lower the quality of the ingredients. Your staff may not be as trained, and it just kind of trickles down.
Well, I can attest to that around here. It's not about cooking, but not as well trained, yes, I think we all know about that.
Well, you've heard my thought. I mean, the restaurant industry is very diluted right now. There are so many restaurants and so few qualified employees. It's really
That's got to
hard.
make it harder too. If you have a good product, it's, you got to deal with people trying all this other stuff. It's going to take you
Absolutely.
longer to be able to make a profit.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but I've had to simplify menus because I didn't have the staff to execute. I think, look at, Bentonville. We both know the town very well up in
Yeah.
Arkansas. It's a phenomenal economy, some great restaurants conceptually, but I think a lot of times the restaurants don't execute. They just don't have the supporting staff, and not just there, it's all over the country.
When you say you don't have the well-trained staff too, I'm certain part of it's got to be about time.
It is.
Because you don't have as many staff members or whatever because of the profit margin and price point. But then when you say trained because they don't know how to make certain things, or is it what skills would they not have?
Well, I think, so first the labor pool is kind of diluted. It's smaller to pull from.
Okay.
So in Bentonville, for instance, they have...
We're talking about Bentonville, Arkansas,
Bentonville,
by the way, the
Arkansas,
home of
Sam's and Walmart.
Walmart, yeah.
So they have, say, 50 restaurants. Well, they're all pulling from the same 200 employees or 250 or 300 experienced employees.
Okay.
It's not a college town, and no one's going to drive 30 miles or 50 miles from Fayetteville to get there. And you run into that problem in a lot of places. Even Houston, it's a large city. And there are so many restaurants opening all the time, you just can't train enough staff as fast as the restaurants are opening.
So they're not as able to make certain dishes. They're not as fast. They can't handle the volume.
Yeah, and you have a
So
lot of new employees that have never worked in a restaurant before.
Some of the other things I remember that used to be really popular, and I always mention this one because it's a great dish and you rarely see it, is beef Wellington.
Yep.
Beef Wellington was the thing when my parents were courting back in the 50s or whatever. This would be, the very upscale thing you would go to get, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And beef Wellington is probably tender. Is it almost always tenderloin?
It's a tenderloin with basically a puff pastry around it, and it's got the same mushroom mix that I use. It's called the duxelle.
Okay.
On top, and then you wrap it, and then you bake it in the oven.
Sensational. So what's coming in the future? What types of things are people experimenting with around the country, the world, whatever, that you're likely going to see? Because we've seen things like there's been a Korean food explosion in the Korean
Huge.
food trucks, Korean tacos and whatever. What are the little sandwiches, the Vietnamese sandwiches?
Oh, banh mi.
Banh mi, we've seen those.
Yep.
So what type of things do you think you're going to see in the future?
Well, I saw a few examples of sushi burgers last week, where they make the patty out of the sushi rice,
Okay, sushi rice, gotcha.
and then they put whatever filling in between. So it's sashimi or some sort of tartare.
Okay.
It's very interesting. I'm not, again, I'm kind of a purist, so I'm hesitant, but it looks delicious. Again, the poke bowls we talked about, which is a take on, the marinated tuna or other fish with vegetables over a bowl of rice.
Are we seeing, I mean, we got to be seeing more influence from around the world, too, more flavors coming from other places.
It's definitely more ethnic and it's simpler, right? The flavors are more simple, it's pure, it's a lot more pure.
Well, that's something that I've been focused on recently, too, is I like a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
So it's my natural instinct, if I'm cooking something, to go put a lot of stuff in it and put not just a lot of an individual, but a lot of different types of stuff in it. I want flavor. When really it comes down to the salt, pepper, garlic, a couple of very simple things.
Quality of the ingredients.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
So I got to believe a lot of this stuff is being driven by millennials now.
Yes.
Younger generations, what up? These are people who want quality, they want fresh, they want simple, right?
They want the experience.
Explain this experience too, because you not only consult restaurants, it's grocery stores, you have some familiarity with that and prepared foods in there. So really in the business end, what is the experience? Because it's not just restaurants. Let's say somebody owns another business out there and you're trying to bring in younger generations. What do you mean by they're looking for an experience?
Well, you can go to any restaurant and get food brought to you on a plate for the right price. What people want is something extra, whether that's something that you bring. There's a place in Austin, and at the end of the meal, they come around with they have a cart, and they give everybody a little ice cream cone. It
So it's
doesn't
just that
cost
added
anything.
little-
Yeah, you get to choose one of 3 flavors or whatever, but it's an extra something special. It makes you feel special. It does. It elevates the level of service, the level of food.
So this is almost like when we of modest means get an opportunity to go to an all-inclusive resort or something like this, and they're treating you at a level of sophistication that you're not used to, and you're like, oh, I get to be a little special, I get to be a little pampered here, that type of thing. And you in your mind have always thought of that as being wealthier people. It seems to me that the millennials are thinking they want that, yet they're the first generation to make less than their parents as a generation in America. So I see them giving up things like they're not buying the house, they're not doing some of these things that cost them money, and instead selectively spending their money on that. I still want some of those things my parents had. I still want some of those nice things, but I got to kind of pick and choose. So bang for my buck too, is that kind of it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's definitely, they're the largest driving force in the food service industry right now. You know, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, it was the baby boomers.
Right.
And that's kind of passed. Millennials have taken over.
Which is hilarious because Generation X was called X because it's the lost generation. I mean, well before millennials had been born, they said, listen, the generation that comes after the baby boomer is the lost generation. It's going to be fewer in numbers, and it's Generation X, and they'll be kind of skipped over and blah, blah, blah. So, which I am Generation X. So during the baby boomers, the whole time, I'm growing up or whatever, it was all about catering to the baby boomers. And finally, you're too young, kid, it's all about the baby boomers, get the hell out of here. Now I have come of age. Now the generation is here, and they said, we got to go after this generation after them that has so many people, it's deep pockets, and they skipped right over us. We never had our day in the sun, and now I'm the old guy. You know what I mean?
But we're on TV, it doesn't matter.
Right, that's true, at least for this moment. So they just kind of jumped over it, but they're driving all of this now, deep pockets, and the Generation X is just kind of jumped over them.
Absolutely. You know, this is the millennials are the first generation to spend more money dining out than on groceries.
But they don't cook, right?
No, they go to Whole Foods. Typically they don't buy groceries. They buy prepared foods.
Is it that they can't cook, or is it the experience? Is it a combination of things?
Well, I think it's trading time for money, right? So you can do that both ways, in earning and in spending. They'd prefer to spend their time doing other more social activities and save the time cooking, but get something that's high perceived value, and healthfully it's perceived as being very healthful.
You're right. So their perception is, and Whole Foods does a nice job.
Absolutely.
I mean, they can be a little pricey with stuff or whatever, but they do a very nice job. They have the perception, whether it's true or not, and I've got a lot of it probably is, that it's very healthy.
Absolutely.
So is it also being seen, is it about the bag that I go to Whole Foods, I go to Starbucks,
It's the new Tiffany's blue bag.
Is it kind of that as
so.
well? So you have a little bit of that, they go there and do this, and then they say, I would rather buy this stuff than spend that time preparing the food, and it's worth the money, even if it's a little pricey, right?
Absolutely.
It's worth it because then I can spend that time doing whatever else.
Yeah.
Interesting, fascinating stuff. You want to understand how to make money in the world, you got to understand some of these concepts, and we're just trying to figure this stuff out as well because, as I said, I've been fascinating about business, and I want to help people as much as possible. Let me get a quick break in. We'll be back with more with celebrity chef Patrick Mosier. On Twitter, it's FoodBizPro. If you need restaurant consulting, you need questions answered, information, he'll tweet with you. It's at FoodBizPro. and it's at Doc Thompson Show for me. Back in a minute on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Want to see Glenn live? If you're coming to Texas, you can. Join us at Mercury Studios in Dallas for a taping of Glenn's television show. To reserve your seat, email tickets@glennbeck.com with your information. That's tickets@glennbeck.com. Mercury.
You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
Hey there, it's Doc Thompson with the Food Biz Pro. Patrick Mosier, celebrity chef. Go to @FoodBizPro on Twitter and he'll engage with you there. It's at Doc Thompson Show for me. Please follow both of us. What is the future going to hold for supermarkets? Because I keep seeing these trends about people like growing things in the supermarket. And I got to believe that's the future. If you want to make money, folks, I think this is one of the answers.
So hyper-local sourcing is not just affecting the grocery industry, but restaurants as well. A lot of
Say
restaurants
locally
have,
sourced, I got a place out back or
yeah,
whatever.
they grow their herbs, their
Yeah.
tomatoes, a few items. But I think that's the next trend in the grocery industry. Rooftop gardens, hydroponic walls, you can go in and pick the tomatoes you want. Go on the rooftop and watch them harvest the carrots that are going to be served or that are going to be sold in the restaurant an hour later.
Yeah, because I've seen that in a lot of urban settings where like you grow microgreens in a warehouse and distribute to all the restaurants or on a rooftop in New York or somewhere, and a lot of that's going on. But I think 20, 30 years, maybe not, maybe 10, 5 years down the road, you may go into your grocery store and stuff where it's spatially able to do this, where you will just pick the tomato right off the vine. They get a higher yield when it's hydroponics or aeroponics
Absolutely.
or whatever, and it just keeps growing. And you want to talk fresh, right?
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing right now. People are very concerned with nutritional value and healthful food. All right, so the minute that corn, the minute you pick corn, it's hard to grow in a grocery store, but for instance,
Right.
4 minutes after it comes off the stalk, it already starts to lose its sugar. Within 20 minutes, it's at 40% of what it originally was,
Wow.
somewhere in there. I don't know if that's the exact
But it's,
percentage,
yeah,
but
around.
it's really low. And you think about the environmental impact on something that's bred for packing, like a tomato. It's all the way, it's grown in California, shipped all the way across the country. Why not just buy something local that costs more, you know?
And going to be fresher.
Exactly, but you know, when you talk about the environmental footprint.
Yeah, that's the wave of the future. At some point, you're going to see a lot more of that. Let's capitalize on it. Let's make money. You're a business person, you want to do it? Somewhere in there is the idea for you, potentially. More business stuff coming up Friday morning on this, the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.